the end of the lifetime to the record 7-14 with 3 in the swag. Leading things off, one to double, then left field, number 3, Devon Mims. Mims, left field.
Oh, I guess,
Batting second in the order, center fielder, number 10, Marvin Parker. Parker, center field. Batting third in the order, playing second base, number 18, Maury Weaver. Weaver, second base. The cleanup here is the first baseman for the Golden Medal, number 25, Edgar Figueroa. Figueroa, first base. Batting fifth in the order, playing right field, number 8, Devion Holmes. Holmes, right field. Batting sixth on the hot corner, third base, number 14, Braylon Holmes. Holmes, third base. Batting seventh in the DH tonight, number 32, Chris Soder. Soder, the DH. Batting eighth in the order behind the dish, catcher, number 26, Ryan Brown. Brown, the catcher. Rounding out the batting order for Mississippi Valley at shortstop, number 28, Johnny O'Farrell Ortiz. Ortiz, the shortstop. The starting pitcher for Mississippi Valley is right-hander number 20, Zach Sidney. Sidney, starting pitcher for Mississippi Valley. Head coach of the Golden Medals is Milton Barney.
their starting pitcher was introduced.
And now the starting lineup for the University Wildcats. Leading things off at second base, number 5, Luis Torero. Torero, second base. Second in the order, playing left field, number 34, Derek John. John, left field. Batting third is playing right field, number 4, Highland Hall. Hall, right field.
That was funny.
Number 31, Robert Moya.
That would be funny. It would be funny if it's actually gave me out.
Third base. Round up back to order for the next Mike Stevens. Stevens, center field. Starting pitcher, Porter Wildcats. Right-hander, number 18, Ryan Santos. Santos, the starting pitcher for the Blue Pigeons. Head coach of the Pats is John Hernandez.
We have a couple of Valley kids.
Ladies and gentlemen, at the time we ask this to please stand. Come on, remove your caps.
Well, there are a bunch of them.
Because we're anxious for the playing of our national anthem.
Well, live from Jackie Robinson Ballpark in beautiful downtown Daytona Beach, Florida. It's the second conference series of the season for Bethune-Cookman University basketball as they start a 3-game set over the weekend with the Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils. Hello and a very warm welcome. My name is Michael Turillo. Happy to have your company. Happy to have the company once again of Bryce Hoynowski back after a quick gallivant to the Ocean Center for the CBI, back where he belongs, calling Wildcat baseball for all of you. The Wildcats send this lineup to the plate today. Luis Torero leads off and bats second. Garrett Chun plays left field and Torero bats first and plays second. Chun plays left and bats second. Hall plays right and bats third. Pena is at first base and bats fourth. Moya is the designated hitter batting sixth. George Braceras is the catcher batting seventh. Jeremy Garcia is the shortstop, bats eighth. Brian Perez, third baseman, bats ninth. Malik Stevens plays center field. And for Mississippi Valley State, Devon Mims plays left field and leads off. Marvin Booker plays center and bats second. Maury Weaver plays second and bats third. Victor Figueroa is at first base and bats fourth. Davion Hall plays right field and bats fifth. Draylon Holmes is at third base and bats sixth. The designated hitter Chris Soder bats seventh. Ryan Brown, the catcher, eighth. And Yodani Ofaril Ortiz is the shortstop and bats ninth. It is a beautiful 66 degrees and very blustery here. Winds blowing right to left, straight out to left field. And for the first time that I can remember this season, Bryce, the Wildcats have sent out the same exact roster 2 games in a row. This is the exact same lineup minus Santos on the mound that took the field and beat the Stetson Hatters 13-5 on Tuesday.
Yeah, you know, the Wildcats ride some big-time momentum here after a series win last weekend against the defending SWAC champion Alabama State Hornets, and then again beating a always dangerous Stetson program 13-5 on Tuesday night. I think this will be a big series. Of course, you want to keep the bats going for the Wildcats, and by trotting out a similar lineup, I think you look to do that. But particularly on the mound, you see guys in Santos, followed by Gaviria and Libthrat, finally settling in after a switch up in the rotation last week. We see them settling in back into their normal routine of 6 days off before their next start. We'll see how they all settle in here, starting, of course, with the man on the mound, Nolan Santos.
Santos is 2-1 with 30 innings pitched. He's got a 3.60 ERA. 5 starts and 5 appearances with no complete games. He's given up 16 runs on 25 hits, struck out 46, which leads the team, and has walked 14. Standing in to lead off the game for the Delta Devils is Devon Mims. Mims, a 289 hitter. 22 hits, 10 runs scored. No homers and 7 RBIs. And the first pitch from Santos is a strike. Our umpires today behind the plate, Robert Bauer. At first base, Mike Patton. And at third base, Brian Smith. Santos working quickly, and this one is chopped foul. The count 0-2. This Delta Devils team can hit the ball, they can score some runs, and when they get on base, they will steal aggressively.
Yeah, Mike, you've got 2 guys in Devon Mims and Narvin Booker who are 1-2 in all of NCAA Division I baseball in steals.
Well, strike 3, and Mims goes down swinging. Tag applied from Braceras after the ball hit the dirt, and there's one away. Here's Narvin Booker, tied for the team lead in batting average with 333. 20 runs on 16 hits, no homers, 4 RBIs. This is not really a team with a lot of power. Only have 12 home runs on the season. More than Bethune-Cookman, only 10, but the park that Bethune-Cookman plays most of the games in does play a big factor in that. It's hard to hit a ball out of here. 400 to dead center, 325 down the lines. And most of the time, the wind blowing straight in from center. Although, tonight, the wind blowing straight out to left field, just like it was on Tuesday, helped Daniel Labrador hit 2 home runs off of Bethune-Cookman and come about 5 feet short of a third one for Stetson. That one upstairs. And we have lost the scoreboard, so I'll have to keep track of the count in my head for now. Swing and a miss. And down on strikes goes Booker. Santos now just 2 strikeouts away from 50 on the season.
You mentioned those strikeouts, up to 48 now for Santos. He's 7th in all of Division I baseball in strikeouts. That's some nasty stuff on the mound.
Here's Maury Weaver, the 3rd highest base stealer on this team. He's got 12. Mims and Booker have 25 and 22 respectively. Santos rocks and fires the 1-0. It's drilled to short. Garcia fields and fires, and 1, 2, 3 go the Delta Devils. We go to the bottom of the first. Mississippi Valley nothing. Wildcats coming to bat. You're listening to Bethune-Cookman University Baseball on the Cat Eye Network. Zachary Sigmund gets the call to start the game for the Delta Devils on the mound. The freshman from Fort Pierce, Florida, and a graduate of Vero Beach High School. This is his 7th outing of the season. Has previous games against Memphis, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Arkansas State, Tougaloo College, New Orleans, and Florida A&M. The Pine Bluff and Tougaloo College games are his 2 wins. His record officially 1-2 with an 8.55 ERA. 20 innings pitched. He's given up 21 runs on 29 hits with 9 strikeouts and 10 walks. Luis Tuero stands in for the Wildcats. It takes a ball on the inside corner, 1-0. Tuero playing second for the second straight game in place of Colton Olison, who's battling a little bit of an injury. Strike on the outside corner, 1-1.
It'll be important in this series for the Wildcats. You bring in a Mississippi Valley State team that hasn't been great on the mound thus far to start the season, but you can't overlook them, and you have to make sure you continue that momentum that you've built over the midweeker, over last weekend, play your game, and rack some wins up.
Now that one, did it catch Tuero on the heel? No, so he'll stand in there with a 2-1 count. Team ERA for Mississippi Valley State is 10.42. They've given up 220 runs and scored just 131. Ball high, 2-2. And the Delta Devils have been on the wrong side and the right side of some crazy scorelines so far this season. Here's a 2-2. Outside corner. Oh, correction. That was... The count was full, so Tuero walks. Again, the scoreboard here at Jackie Robinson Ballpark not on at the moment. So Tuero on with a walk to lead off the game. And here's Garrett Chun. Chun, a .315 hitter, 18 runs on 23 hits, no homers, and 3 RBIs. And Sigmund deals a strike on the inside corner, 0-1. They started the season, did the Delta Devils, at the Cactus Jack HBCU Classic out in Houston, playing 3 other SWAC schools in non-conference action at Minute Maid Park, which great experience. Breaking ball in there for a strike. Sigmund, really a pitch-to-contact guy. His fastball runs in the mid-80s with a low 70s breaking ball. He'll want his defense to do the job behind him. Catcher sets up outside. They go back to first trying to get Tuero, but he slides in safely. They played Texas Southern Jackson State and Grambling State at Minute Maid Park.
You know, Mike, we talked about it pregame. It's just kind of a quirk of the SWAC schedule is these teams out in the West, you know, Valley along with BCU in the East, don't get to play each other during the regular season. So that's the only way that these teams get to match up against some of these teams out west. You know, we saw Valley play Alcorn State in the midweek this last week.
Yeah, there are no regular season games with cross-conference. Or across division, I should say. Swung on it, hit up the middle. There's a base hit. Booker fields and fires in to keep Tuero at second, but the first 2 for the Wildcats get on in the first, and here's Highland Hall. Hall, the team leader in batting average at .362. He's got 15 runs on 25 hits, 1 homer, and 11 RBIs. And reached base 5 out of the 6 times he appeared against Stetson on Tuesday. He hits it high and foul, and the count 0-1. Three for 4 with 2 walks and a run scored for Hall. Righty to righty, and the ball chops foul down the third base line, just past the third base coach for Bethune-Cookman.
2 runners on, no outs here, Mike. It's a good chance for a team in the Wildcats that's kind of been haunted by runners on base, left on base, early here in the season. You know, it'd be really nice to see push a couple runs across, just see them cross the plate, to just build that momentum and have that confidence, because we've seen it bite the Wildcats a handful of times, and we know that the little left on base, one here, one there, they do add up, and there's been many a game you can point to where it's cost them.
The Friday game against Longwood and the midweeker against Jacksonville specifically, where if the Wildcats had played at just a few of those left on base, they would have won both of those contests. Outside. And the count 1-2. Bethune-Cookman over 500, 11-10 coming into the weekend series. Hall fouls this one off, the count holds. And they have recovered from their high major road trip to Florida State and South Carolina, winning 3 of their last 4. The 1-2 again. In the dirt, 2-2. After this, on Tuesday, we'll have the Bulls of South Florida in here for a non-conference game, and then we'll wrap up this 13-game homestand with a 3-spot against the old enemy. Florida A&M comes in here the 31st, 1st, and 2nd. And then the Wildcats go on the road as Hall swings and misses, and he's down on strikes. Go on a very long road trip, 18 games in a row away from Jackie Robinson, covering the entire month of April.
And it's interesting, too, for these Wildcats. In both this Mississippi Valley State series as well as the Florida A&M series next weekend, it'll be the first time they've taken on these two teams, specifically with Valley for the first time ever, but with FAMU since the move to the SWAC here at Jackie Robinson Ballpark. Of course, we played those at Bethune Point a season ago.
Yeah, schedule conflicts with the Daytona Tortugas, which is why the Wildcats schedule is so home front loaded. You want to get as many of those home games out of the way before the Tortugas come poking around.
It'll also be nice for the team to get 2 of their last 3 series here at the Jack, build some confidence heading into the playoffs.
And then the one series they don't play here, they go at Alabama State in a series that could very well decide the East. Regular season champions and the #1 seed going into the playoffs.
Fun weekend of baseball here last weekend, seeing them. And of course, the midweek or the middle game, the night game of the doubleheader was a little bit of a dud, but the other two, some thrillers here at the Jack from the 2 top teams in the conference.
Hit in the air to center by Boris Pena. Tracking back is Booker. He's at the wall. Adios, amigos. Boris Pena with his second 3-run bomb of the season, and the Wildcats are on the board in the first.
Make it the 3rd home run overall for Pena on the season. Probably the most consistent power bat for the Wildcats last season, and is already emerging this year as one of their top. Guy who tends to come through in the clutch with those. He did it last year in the SWAC tournament. We've seen him do it a handful of times here already. Got some pop in his bat, does the man at first base tonight.
Man, does Pena love to eat up on SWAC pitching. He did it against Alabama State last weekend. He's already doing it against Mississippi Valley State this weekend. And the Wildcats lead 3-0. Here's Robert Moya, who has swapped back and forth between first base and designated hitter. Tuero at second base tonight, replacing the injured Colton Olison. It may be just a precaution to keep him out for this series, or for the first game of this series.
Dealing with some back spasms is Olison, so if you followed professional baseball or any level of baseball for any length of time, you know that's not generally a long-term issue, just kind of something to keep an eye on. And Olison down there with the boys tonight, cheering on the squad.
Outside of the count 2-0 to Moya, a .306 hitter. 13 runs on 22 hits, 1 homer, and 12 RBIs.
Be a good night to see Moya get a homer or 2. big-time power bat in this Wildcats order, at least he figures to be.
That one in the dirt. And Moya walks. Second walk of the inning given up by Sigmund. He's already up to 22 pitches. And now here's George Brasaris, the catcher. Had a fabulous night on Tuesday, although not many Wildcats didn't. And a night where they scored 13 runs. That pitch, a strike on the outside corner, 0-1. On Tuesday, Brasaris was 2 for 3 with 2 walks and 3 runs and 2 RBI.
The Wildcats have really found an outstanding catcher duo start this season.
Brasaris and Escobar. I was honestly a little bit surprised not to see Escobar get the start today behind the plate, but Coach Hernandez trusts George Brasaris.
And anytime you're taking the spot of an preseason all-SWAC guy, as George Brasaris has, it's a great tandem back there behind the dish.
And they'll rotate back and forth. I assume Escobar will start at least one of the games this weekend and then probably 2 of 3 next weekend. And it might be pitcher preference as well. Hit off the end of the bat, foul. The count holds 1-2 on Brasaris. Pitchers, as you know, Bryce, can be strange beings, and they prefer a certain catcher behind the plate when they're throwing or not.
Or in the case of these Wildcats, uniform preference. You know, the Wildcats in the past have been wearing black on Friday nights, but with Santos on the mound now for Friday, he'll keep the whites as they've been wearing on Saturday. We'll see the golds to keep Gaviria consistent on Saturday, and maroons on Sunday for Louis Lipthrat.
Lipthrat previously had been wearing black, tipped into the glove of Brown from Brasaris, and that's the second strikeout of the inning for Sigmund. So Sigmund has given up 2 hits, 2 walks, and 3 runs, but has struck out 2, and here's Jeremy Garcia. Garcia, 288 hitter, 12 runs on 17 hits, 1 homer, 10 RBIs. And with that home run for Pena, he takes the home run lead of the team with 3. Pena sitting on 2, and Sufrain with that 2 home run outing against Purdue Fort Wayne all the way back in February are tied for second. And what's more impressive about that home run for Pena is he hit that one to dead center field over the 400-foot sign against the wind, so he got all of it.
Just underneath that batter's eye out there in center field. I wouldn't be surprised, Mike, with the way the wind's ripping out there towards left field tonight if we don't see another one from somebody tonight.
And you weren't here on Tuesday, but that's how Daniel Labrador, the catcher for Stetson, got his 2. He just put him up into the jet stream, and they carried into the batting cages and left.
And as you mentioned, Mike, it's a little uncharacteristic out here at the Jack. It tends to blow in, but we've seen it a few times this season.
In the air to left center. That's going to get down and hop to the wall in the alley. Rounding second and rounding third is Moya. He'll try and score from first without a throw. Robert Moya breaks out the wheels, and it's an RBI double for Garcia. And the Wildcats lead 4-0.
Things are already a bit ugly here if you're Mississippi Valley. Sigmund, a pitch-to-contact guy, but when you're a pitch-to-contact guy, you better hit your spots because he's left some over the plate, and the Wildcats have capitalized. Things could get ugly quickly if things don't turn around. Sigmund showing some frustration, shaking his head out there on the mound.
Sigmund, one of the better pitchers the Delta Devils have. The other 2 pitchers they'll throw this week is Calvin McClendon and Hunter Stallings. Stallings is the best at a 4.03 ERA. McClendon second at 8.06. That's a pretty steep drop-off. And then Sigmund at 8.55. Isaiah Valenzuela is their best reliever at a 9.13, and then everybody else is over 10 ERA. So the pitching really has let the Delta Devils down this season, even though their bats have done some work. They've put up 10-plus runs 5 times. Ball hops away from Brown and Getting to third on the pass ball is Jeremy Garcia. So 2 outs, Garcia at third. This is Brian Perez up to bat right now. The count's 2-1. Perez, a .67 ERA. 2 runs, 1 hit, 2 RBI. He collected his first hit of the season on Tuesday against Stetson, and it was a 2 RBI double. Perez, a guy that returning from injury, didn't play the first month and a half of the season and only started deputized in relief sparingly. Here comes another pass ball, and sliding in safely to score is Jeremy Garcia. 5th run in the inning for the Wildcats, and they lead 5-0.
Things are getting worse before they get better if you're Sigmund and Mississippi Valley State. Of course, with 2 away here and nobody on base.
And not really, Brown behind the plate is responsible for both of those errors, as those are pass balls, not wild pitches. They were corrallable. Outside and low, and Perez walks, and here's Malik Stevens, the 9th hitter of the inning.
It's interesting, Mike. Malik Stevens and Brian Perez, 2 of the most important hitters for the Wildcats last season, but with some of the depth of the transfers and new signings that Coach Hernandez has brought in this season, they haven't seen their name called as many times maybe as they would have liked, but it's a credit to both of them. You know, Perez for hanging in there through injury and finally getting on base and making some stuff happen in the last handful of games, and same with Malik Stevens, who I know had a solid Tuesday night to get out there and make it count when it's your chance. And I think with Stevens and maybe some others, we may see them factored in as a more regular part of the lineup as they continue to kind of work back from injury and just solidify their place in the BCU order.
Stevens on Tuesday, 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Stevens overall, this is just his 3rd start of the year, a 167 hitter, 2 runs on 3 hits, 6 RBIs. Inside from Sigmund, and the count 0-1. And the problem for Mississippi Valley is this is the first game of this series. Doesn't get the call in the outside corner, 2-0. You don't want to use too many relievers and burn them for Saturday and Sunday. Throw back to first. Stevens has a very sort of angular way of standing in the batter's box, has that bat.
It's kind of a 3-part routine. He cranks his torso in a very particulate pattern before he gets into the box.
Yeah, he has that bat almost straight pointed towards the pitcher with his arm and elbow kind of pointing towards us up here in the broadcast booth. Very strange, but he gets a lot of power off of torquing his torso and rotating that body into the ball.
Of course, I'm sure even on our camera you can see how cut Stevens is. The guy spends a lot of time in the gym, lean and muscular. He had tied for the team lead in homers last year. Got some power.
And when he catches a ball, it flies a long way. There's a strike. He was looking to walk with 3 balls and 1 strike on him, but now the count runs full. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, with Perez on first. Sigmund, who's thrown 37 pitches here in the first inning. From the stretch, deals. Swing and a miss, and Stevens goes down. But the Wildcats send 9 batters to the plate, and 5 of them cross the plate. 5 runs, 2 hits, 1 left. And we head to the second inning. It's 5-0 Bethune-Cookman right here on the Cat Eye Network. To the second inning we go. Victor Figueroa leads off for Mississippi Valley State. Wildcats have a 5-0 lead after one. And Figueroa fouls this one back in the count 0-1. Victor, a .333 hitter. That's the best on the team, tied with Booker. 12 runs on 21 hits, 1 homer and 15 RBIs, and he sends this one high in the air to left. Sean moving over, and it's actually Stevens who calls him off and makes the catch, and there's one away. Good to see Malik Stevens kind of asserting himself out there in center field.
Commanded the spot all season last year.
But early in the season, it was Garrett Chun's position. And this is fouled away from Davion Hall. Hall hits at .313, 10 runs on 15 hits, 2 homers and 11 RBIs. And this one is grounded to second. Tuero to his left makes the play, and there's quickly 2 away.
13 pitches and 5 outs for Nolan Santos, working quickly, getting contact. Strong start for him.
Here's Draylon Holmes. I got to go through their numbers quickly, or else they'll be gone before I can get their statistics out. Holmes, a .286 hitter, 18 runs on as many hits, and this one is chopped to short. In time, Garcia to Pena. And 1, 2, 3 go the Delta Devils. We head to the bottom of the second. 5-0 Wildcats right here on the Cat Eye Network. Not much of a rest for Zachary Sigmund as Nolan Santos gets 3 outs on 5 pitches.
I believe it was 4 pitches.
4 pitches?
About the quickest inning you'll ever see. You're pretty close to it.
And back to the top of the order with Luis Tuero as the Wildcats sent 9 to the plate in the first. Tuero walked and scored on a 3-run homer by Pena.
Deja vu for Sigmund, or maybe hopefully not if you're him on the mound this inning.
The 1-1 is outside. It's 2-1. Inside 3-1. After this, the Delta Devils will have a non-conference game next Wednesday against Southeastern Louisiana in Hammond. Line to second. Weaver over to Figueroa. And there's 1 away. And now here's Garrett Chun, singled in the first and scored on the home run by Pena. Their next SWAC series for the Delta Devils is a home one at Magnolia Field in Itabena against Jackson State. Chun fouls one off and it's 0-1. I mentioned they've been some wild games involving the Delta Devils this season. at the Cactus Jack HBCU Classic. That pitch is outside. They beat Texas Southern 7-5 to open up the year and then gave up 28 runs in the second 2 games. They lost 14-1 to Jackson State and 14-4 to Grambling State. Then the very next game at Memphis, they lost 19-10 before swing and a miss, and down goes Chun. That's actually the 4th strikeout for Sigmund.
Credit to him. He's been strong to start this inning. Trying to rebound from a rough first. He's worked quickly. He's gotten outs.
Here's Highland Hall, who was the first strikeout victim in the first. Hall, Brasaris, and Stevens all went down via the strikeout. Then 2 out of 3 games in a series against Arkansas Pine Bluff, they scored over 10 runs, 12-5 and 16-3 those wins. And in between that, an 11-8 loss. Gave up 12 to Arkansas State. Then they've scored 15 against non-D1 Tougaloo. High in the air on the infield. Coming in is Figueroa from first base. He makes the catch. So no runs, no hits, none left. Quickly working to the 3rd right here on the Cat Eye Network. To the 3rd we go. 7, 8, 9 in the order for Mississippi Valley State. Starting with Chris Soder. Soder, a .269 hitter. And the first pitch is a strike. 7 runs on as many hits. 2 homers and 9 RBIs. This one fouled away in the count 0-2. And to say that Nolan Santos has been economical to this point would be a severe understatement. 14 pitches now through 2 1/3, as striking out is Soder. And now Santos just 1 K from 50 on the season. He's averaging double-digit strikeouts every time he steps on the mound. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets there and more tonight.
Total 113 last season to set a single-season record for the program.
And the way he's going, we may get up to those kind of numbers again.
The way his fastball's been working early in this season, I fully expect him to surpass that number by season's end, assuming all goes as planned.
The 1-0. This one hit on a line into left center, and there's a base hit. The number 8 hitter for the Delta Devils is the first one aboard. That's the catcher, Ryan Brown. And now here's the 9-hole hitter, Yodani Ofario Ortiz. Ortiz, a 206 hitter. 2 runs on 7 hits, no homers, 6 RBIs. With Perez with Brown on first. I promise I'll get to Brown's numbers next time he comes up to bat. Hit off the end of the bat, foul, count 0-1. And since the digital scoreboard is not working today, we've gone old school. Some people have gone out there and found the old style scoreboard implements and are working the board that way. Outside corner, 1-1. One of the famous features here at Jackie Robinson Ballpark. They kept it even though they put the digital scoreboard in starting last year.
Certainly nice for the charm of the old ballpark. Credit to those guys out there. It's a lot more work than it may look to put all that stuff up. Some ladders, flicking switches. It's a grind.
They've got a lot of switches to hit. They've got a different one for each ball striking out. And then large panels with the numbers 1 through 9 on them they can put, as this one's hit in the air to right and not deep. Making the catch is Hall, and there's 2 away. But yeah, it's one of those things as a kid where you come to the ballpark and think, man, that would be really fun. And then you actually see how much work it is, and you go, nah, maybe not.
Even looking out there right now, they've got a small army. There's 4 or 5 guys out there all working together between balls and strikes and the line score for innings, and playing a lot of catch-up right now, trying to fix up to where we are, but it is not an easy gig.
Usually for the Tortugas games, this one is hit in the air to right center. That's a tough play for Hall. He races in, he makes the catch. We can continue our scoreboard conversation in the next inning. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left. We go to the bottom of the 3rd. Wildcats with a 5-0 lead. To the bottom of the 3rd we go. Wildcats with a 5-0 lead. And here is the home run hero from the 1st inning, Boris Pena. Hit a 3-run bomb to straightaway center to open the scoring this evening. And Sigmund stares him down and fires one upstairs and in. And the count 1-0.
You know, we've seen Boris Pena bounce around defensively. He's caught some games as he did last year. First base, DH, left field.
Past the diving glove of Holmes and into left. And Pena's 2 for 2 with a base hit there.
I want to finish my thought as we've struggled to do that a little bit here tonight. It's a credit to Pena's bat in the lineup. You know, he's a guy, and we saw it here tonight, that a guy whose bat needs to be in the order on a night-to-night basis. And he shows you why with that home run back a few innings ago.
And maybe, right, you sacrifice a little bit defensively.
Absolutely. And he has been respectable at every position he's played. He hasn't been an eyesore by any means, but with a bat like that, you make it work.
He made some good catches in left in the 3 games we saw him play out there. And obviously at first base, and then I haven't seen him play behind the plate this year.
Certainly athletic enough to handle each of those positions.
High in the air to right. Moving over is Hall, and he makes the catch. Tagging and trying to go to second is Pena, and he gets there.
Not something you see every day, a tag up from first and second. A ball that was deep, but not particularly deep. But Pena got a good jump after the catch was made, and he'll dig in at second.
Well, here's the problem without hitting to right field with the wind whipping out towards left, is that ball's going to hang up in the air. If that's hit towards left, it might be still going. Here is Braceras, struck out in the first, with a runner on second and 1 man out here in the third. The wind is kind of swirling now, bouncing back and forth between to left and then straight out to center, which is kind of odd. You don't usually see the wind go out that way at this park. It's usually the wind's coming off the ocean or off the river and coming straight in from center, which causes a lot of balls to hold up in the wind. Don't see many home runs hit out of this park.
It's been a strange start to the year here at the Jack, weather-wise. You know, we really haven't seen a game where the wind hasn't been affecting the game in some manner. You know, early we saw it blowing in, but the last handful of weekends it has been blowing out, shifting from left to right field to dead center. I guess it's just part of that transition here to spring in Daytona Beach.
Fouled off right-hand side. Count holds 1-2 for Braceras. Sigmund has settled down the past 2 innings, but is still up to 58 pitches after throwing 37 in the first. So you're not sure how deep Sigmund's going to go into this game. And the righty deals, and he fouls that one off of his foot, does Braceras.
If at the very least, the Delta Devils have sat down their bullpen. Someone was out there throwing in the first inning, but now that Sigmund has settled down, he's got the confidence of his manager for at least this inning and going forward until we see otherwise.
One last point on the weather. We really can't feel it up here in the booth because we're closed in, but the wind makes it feel pretty cool out there. The temperature is 76 degrees, but it feels maybe like in the low 60s, high 50s with the wind racing through. This one hit to right field again. Hall tries to track it through the wind, and he does. Tagging and trying to get to third is Pena, and he slides in safely. So 2 sacrifice flies has meant Pena's gone from first to third after his leadout base hit. 2 fly balls to right, and now here's Jeremy Garcia, who doubled and scored on 2 passed balls in the first. A little bit of a fun fact, and right now the last 4 outs combined for both teams have all been fly balls to right. Outside corner, 1-0 for Garcia. I mentioned I didn't get to his numbers last time, so I'll do it now. He's a .288 hitter with 12 runs and 17 hits, 1 homer and 10 RBIs. This one drilled into right field again. Hall moving over, makes the catch, and he retires 3 straight batters in a row. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left. We go to the 4th, and BCU maintains a 5-0 lead. To the fourth we go, a 5-0 lead for Bethune-Cookman. Marvin Booker leads off the inning for the Delta Devils. Booker, 22 stolen bases on the year. That's second on the team.
Second in all of Division I baseball, for that matter.
This time it's hit high in the air to right. Hall shades over. Oh, it was a little bit awkward as the wind took it away from him, but he reached back and made the catch. 6 straight putouts to right field.
We're marking to Michael in the break, just having some fun here in the press box. We've got Highland Hall in right for the Wildcats, and then, of course, Davion Hull in right field for the Delta Devils. So if you kind of just say somewhere in between that, a Hall, it could go both ways, and either way, you've got the right out.
And both of them are the only one making outs at the moment. Here's the 1-0. In there for a strike, and it's 1-1 to Maury Weaver. We expected the Delta Devils to steal a whole bunch, but they've only had one base runner so far. Breaking ball buckling Weaver. As you could tell, he had no idea what to make of that pitch. It finds the outside corner for strike 2. Quickly into the 1-2. Swing and a miss, and a ball in the dirt.
That right there is the kind of at-bat you expect to see against a guy like Nolan Santos. Never looked comfortable in the box. We saw him fooled by the off-speed pitch. Gets him on a chase pitch for the strikeout. Nolan Santos putting it on a string, doing whatever he wants out there right now.
Strikeout number 4 on the night for Santos. This one ripped to first past the diving glove of Pena. And the second base hit of the game for MVSU comes off the bat of Victor Figueroa. 2 down and a runner on first. That K to Maury Weaver was Santos' 4th of the game and 50th on the season. Now here is the aforementioned Davion Hull. Santos staring him down. He'll work from the stretch this time. And this one's hit on a line to center, but straight at Malik Stevens, who goes back. He stumbles. Did he make the catch? Yes, he did! Malik Stevens with a circus catch over the back of his head, and the Wildcats get out of the inning.
It's a credit to the athleticism of Malik Stevens right there. A less athletic center fielder probably doesn't make that play because the read was tough just based on the wind. But he's able to run back on it, track it down. Impressive play from the center fielder.
Malik Stevens saves a run. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left. We go to the bottom of the 4th. The Wildcats still hold a 5-0 lead. Brian Perez, the 8-hole hitter, leads it off for the Wildcats in the 4th. BCU holds a 5-0 lead over Mississippi Valley State after Malik Stevens made a circus catch in deep center, 2 steps ahead of the track to save 1, potentially 2 runs from the Delta Devils in the last inning.
Just another showcase of how deep this Wildcats roster is.
Poked into right field. Hull makes the catch. 4 straight Wildcat putouts to Hull and right.
The wind blowing out to left, everybody's hitting it to right.
And it's just holding up in the wind, and Hull says, I'll take that. Here's the 9-hole hitter, Malik Stevens, who just made that catch. He's got to catch his breath and get in the batter's box. Struck out his first time up. Swing and a miss, and you can tell he wants to put one of these about where that 400 number is in center. He swings with dangerous intentions at every ball that comes his way. That time he takes inside corner and it's called a strike, and it's 0-2. Stevens, a senior from Willow Spring, North Carolina. Tapped into the glove, and Stevens down on strikes for the second time, 2 outs in the inning. And here's Luis Tuero. Walked and scored in the first, and grounded out to second in the second.
We saw last weekend Tuero dealing with some shoulder issues. Banged up a little bit, but got a breather at the DH spot, and now is anchoring out there in second base. It's good to see him swinging the bat well again.
Tuero, the senior from Hialeah, takes a ball outside. It's 1-0. Bounced this one to the plate, did Sigmund. And after a rough first inning, Sigmund has settled down. He's only allowed 1 base runner in the last inning and 2/3. Like 2 2/3 innings. Outside, drops out of Brown's glove. Hasn't been an easy game for Brown behind the plate.
Yeah, he's had some issues corralling a few in the dirt, and we see that one right there.
2 passed balls in the first inning that allowed Jeremy Garcia to get to third after he doubled and then score. There's a strike. Right down the middle in the count, 3-1. 2 outs, nobody on, and Tuero takes a strike on the outside corner. And he was halfway to first before the home plate umpire rung him up. Now the count runs full 3-2. Outside, and now Tuero can take his base. Second walk of the game for Luis. And 4th walk issued by Sigmund. Sigmund came into the game with 9 strikeouts and 10 walks. He has maintained that ratio with 4 strikeouts and 4 walks in the game. Here's Garrett Chun. First pitch to him is inside. A nice job by Brown to prevent it from heading to the backstop. 1-0. Chun singled and scored in the first, struck out in the second.
6 of the 9 Wildcats to head to the plate tonight have reached base in one form or another, via the walk or a hit.
Off the end of the bat, foul, and that'll make the seats. Only ones not to get on base so far are Highland Hall, George Braceras, and Malik Stevens.
This Wildcats lineup making it difficult on every pitcher from every spot in the lineup. Some patient at bats, working walks. Of course, everyone in this lineup capable of some solid base hits. We've seen a lot of games so far this season where the lower end of the lineup has kind of carried the load.
We saw that in the Alabama State series last weekend, and we saw it against Stetson on Tuesday. This one hit on a rope to right field. Coming in and diving to make the catch is Hull. He's had a lot of work to do, but he's done everything asked of him out there in right field, Davion Hull. No runs, no hits, 1 left. We go to the 5th, and it's still 5-0 Wildcats right here on the Cat Eye Network. Well, since a Wildcat offensive explosion in the first inning, it's all pitching and defense for both sides after the first tonight. The teams have combined for 4 base runners past the first inning, as Draylon Holmes leads off for Mississippi Valley. He's the big power threat for the Delta Devils, has 5 home runs on the year, but Santos gets him to sword at that one.
12 homers a season to go for Holmes.
The 0-1 outside, Holmes does not bite. Holmes, a junior from Griffin, Georgia, transferred from Rust College, the Division II level. And you find that in all sports, the Division I HBCUs tend to get a lot of transfers from the lower division HBCUs. You see a lot of SIAC guys come up through the ranks to the SWAC and the MEAC. And down on strikes goes Holmes. That's the 5th strikeout for Santos, and here's Chris Soder, who struck out in the 3rd.
You know, to continue your thought there, Mike, I think it's baseball and to another extent softball is a sport where you really see guys who succeed at the lower levels, whether it be that or D2, JUCO, really come in and contribute in a really strong way right as they get in the door. We see Johnny Hernandez is one who loves to pick out talent from the JUCO level and really power a lot of these teams. It's less of an adjustment period.
And then again, with the kind of golden age of sports training that we're living in, there's so much youth in baseball and all sports. As another strikeout, Soder goes down, and there's 2 away. You know, you see it with AAU circuits in basketball. You see it with the Golden Spikes programs in baseball. You know, Pop Warner in football. There's so much opportunity for players to work at a young age. So by the time they get to the college level, there's not a lot of difference between guys playing at a level like the SWAC and maybe an SIAC Division II or JUCO level. And a lot of these guys slip through the cracks as well.
And I think that's part of why you've seen, you know, a handful of programs transition from that lower level to Division I, come in and succeed right away. I also think it's an interesting point when you couple how much young talent is in the professional game. You know, we're seeing the prime of people's careers in their early 20s, guys at 23 or younger dominating these sports, whether it be baseball or beyond. Youth is absolutely the driving force in sports right now.
Swing and a miss, and a 3-pitch strikeout for Santos that is finished off by a throw from Braceras. Santos strikes out the side. Holmes, Soder, and Brown all down swinging, and we go to the bottom of the 5th. 5-0 Wildcats right here on the Cat Eye Network. Highland Hall leads off the bottom of the 5th for the Wildcats, still looking for their first run since the opening frame. They lead at 5-0. Hall, this one hit hard into center field and deep. Going back, Booker to the track. It's one hop off the wall. Hall digging for second. He'll be in there with a stand-up double.
All these balls hit out to right field as the wind continues to blow out to left. It's about time we see somebody pull it to left.
Go with, and that one isn't even pulled. I think it was hit to dead center and the wind pushed it.
Sometimes it really is that simple, Mike.
Here's Boris Pena, got the show started with a 3-run homer in the first, then singled in the third. He's currently 2 for 2. Zachary Sigmund still on the mound for Mississippi Valley, up to 81 pitches so far here in the 5th. That one bounced to the plate, and Pena swung at it like he's playing cricket. And that's not really the ones you want to swing at there.
I think we'll excuse him after the way he swung the bat tonight.
Yeah.
I think he gets a pass.
The only man that I've ever seen that can hit a ball like that is Vladimir Guerrero. That one inside, and it's 1-1. Yeah, Guerrero was famous for that, taking the balls in the dirt and launching them. Balls upstairs by his head and hitting them over the fence.
Pablo Sandoval, another one that comes to mind in recent memory. Certainly not the career of Guerrero. Don't want to put them in the same conversation, but definitely hit some junk balls.
Yeah. And now you see it with Guerrero Jr. It's so strange as I kind of get older and you now see the kids of the stars that I grew up watching now playing in the big leagues.
Trend that only figures to continue, I'd imagine.
I mean, I'm sure people that are a little bit older than me felt the same way with, Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. Off the end of the bat foul, count 1 and 2. Which was wild was that they played together. And I may be misremembering, but something I saw today is about the Mariners and Ken Griffey Jr. No, the Padres and Ken Griffey Jr. I believe he's going to manage in the minor leagues for them.
Interesting. I haven't seen that.
It's kind of hard to keep guys like that away from the game.
Of course, you talk about Vlad Guerrero and Vlad Guerrero Jr. With the Griffeys, we saw Jr. come in and really improve on kind of what his father did in the big leagues. It'll be interesting to see if Vlad Guerrero Jr. gets anywhere near his dad's career. It'll be a sight to see.
Ground ball shortstop, and it gets through the hole of Ortiz. No play at first. That'll be an error, and Pena is on for the 3rd time today.
Play is officially ruled an error. Definitely a tough play to make. That ball was a rocket off the bat. Have to make a quick decision, have your glove in the right spot, but it will ultimately be ruled an error on the shortstop.
Those are the plays, though, that at the D1 level you got to have those kind of routine balls hit right at you, but bounced off the end of Ortiz's glove and through his legs. Ball outside corner, first pitch to Robert Moya. Walked and scored on the first, and then flied to right in the third. You're going to hear me say that a lot. As there were 5 straight putouts to right field for Davion Hall. And 8 straight if you want to talk about both teams combined.
Baseball can really be funny sometimes.
And in a game where, I believe Sigmund balked. And so Pena's going to move to second.
Coach Hernandez is going to come out and have a chat with the home plate official. Because they're going to rule that the batter called time, I think, is why Hernandez is so upset about it.
Oh, so they're not going to
So
put...
they will send Pena back to first, ruling that Moya called time.
And it's not a balk on Sigmund. That is a wild... I've never seen that before.
If I'm not mistaken, based on hearing Johnny from up here, that seems to be what he's upset about.
That's a bit of a wild one, I will admit. They called the balk, Pena went to second, and then the umpires sent him back. Swing and a miss. Big cut from Moya, and the count's 2-2. And now Moya calls time for real and will walk out to talk with the third base coach. That's Jose Carballo out there. Gets a pat on the shoulder and walks back to the mound. Moya, 6-foot-tall, 200-pounder from Hialeah. He's a junior, and he hits this one foul to the right side, and the count holds 2-2. Moya has played his entire collegiate career here at Bethune-Cookman. No, correction, he was at Cleveland Community College before arriving at BCU. At Cleveland Community College, he had 48 hits in 46 games in 2022. This time grounded towards third. Fielded deep in the hole by Ortiz. Bouncer to first in time to get Moya, but it is going to be a sacrifice put out as Hall scores. Pena moves to second, and it is 6-0 Wildcats.
Nice play by Ortiz to kind of make up for the error earlier in the inning. Got that one deep in the hole. Tough play to make. Managed to bounce it over to first base.
You saw that ball bounce off the turf, and you think, man, it could go anywhere. But it went straight into Figueroa's glove at first. Swing and a miss for Braceras. He's one of the 3 Wildcats who have not got on base yet tonight. Struck out in the first and flying to right in the third. This time he lines this one to right center field. It's going to be down for a base hit. Rounding third and coming home is Pena. Trying to stretch it to a double is Braceras. He is out. A little bit of confusion here as the home plate umpire tried to wave the runoff like the inning was over, even though there's only 2 outs.
It's been a weird inning, Mike. I've seen the balk that was. Now we see this.
Not really quite sure how to score that. Is he out 7-4? Or is that a single and a caught going on the base pass? We'll see what
It would absolutely be a single and caught on the base pass 7-4. Definitely don't take away the hit for Wildcats might be feeling themselves a little bit with 7 runs home now, trying to stretch it a little bit, push it, try to keep the rally going, and got the better of him, and he's throwing out 7-4.
So 2 straight RBIs for players that are not going to get on base. As Moya grounded out 6-3, but scored Hall, and Braceras singled and then tried to stretch it to a double and was thrown out 7-4, but that plated Pena. Here's Jeremy Garcia, fouls the first one off, and the count 0-1. Garcia grounded to first, backhanded by Figueroa. He'll take it himself, and that will end the inning. A strange inning, to be sure, but one in which the Wildcats get 2 runs on 2 hits, 1 error, and none left. We go to the 6th inning. The Wildcats have stretched the lead to 7-0.
6, shortstop number 28, Giordano Ortiz.
The Orlando native, Yordani Ofaril Ortiz, stands in for Valley. Prepped at Sunshine State Elite Academy. Nolan Santos back out there for his 6th inning of work. Still only at 43 pitches. Very efficient night for Nolan.
Doesn't get much more efficient than that, Mike.
Breaking ball swing and a miss. And the count 1-2. I would not be surprised if we don't see Zachary Sigmund for the bottom of the 6th, as he is up there towards 100 pitches. Oh, the first base umpire said that Ortiz did not swing at that pitch. He ran down to first thinking that it was a drop third strike, but in reality it was just ball 2.
It's just been a weird inning and into a second inning now here, and it's continuing. Seems our sound guy also thought that one was a strikeout, but we're all kind of trying to get our bearings after a wild few calls here.
That one's fouled off. Actually hit Ortiz in the head off the plate. Yeah, so last inning we saw the balk that wasn't, with the umpire ruling that the batter had called time before the infraction. They sent the runners back.
Then, of course, the missed outs, which would be one thing if the scoreboard still wasn't on, but we do have ball strikes and out on the old school scoreboard, so there's really no excuse.
And you'd expect the umpires to have that just by themselves. It was on the sacrifice by Braceras. Braceras was thrown out at second, and the umpire said the run didn't count, even though there were 2 outs in the inning. Uh-oh, tough play for Pena at first, and it skips into center field, into right field. That'll be an error, and a base runner for Mississippi Valley State. Ortiz gets on.
Tough play by, or for, I should say, Boris Pena over there. One of those balls you have to kind of try to scoop up against your body and against your chest the way it kicked. We saw another weird turf bounce there, kind of jumped up on him when it got to him. Skips off of his right shoulder out into right.
Back to the top of the order for the Delta Devils. Third crack at bat for Davion Mims. Mims squares to bunt. They throw back to first. And Ortiz is safe. Mims struck out of the first and fly to right in the third. Now Mims takes a step out of the box and looks at what appears to be a strategy card in his back pocket.
And we saw the third base coach over there calling out 2-2-2, some kind of code sign.
1-0. Upstairs, Mims pulls back a bunt. You could tell that Ortiz really wants to steal. He's been getting huge leads. There's already been one throw down there from Braceras, and he debated throwing down there a second time.
If there's any team that is worthy on checking on, at least to this point, it would be the Delta Devils.
Another check. Ortiz only 1 stolen base on 2 attempts this season, which is outside the norm for this team. We've got Booker with 27 attempts, Mims with 28, Weaver with 14, and Draylon Holmes with 11.
All guys just running freely out there. But then again, when you're in a game like this where you're struggling to put hits together, small ball usually is the way to start a rally and really get some confidence and get the bats going.
Santos, the 2-0 upstairs, throw back to first again, and once again Ortiz gets back there safely, 3-0. And you think that all the dancing going on at first base by Yordani Ofaril Ortiz is kind of getting in Santos' head a little bit. He's trying to bait him to steal by throwing fastballs out of the zone that are easy for Braceras to pick and throw. Here's a 3-0 now. Swinging a foul ball off of Braceras' mask. And he's going to walk it off. We thought that maybe Zachary Sigmund wasn't going to pitch the 6th, but there is nobody warming up in the Mississippi Valley bullpen out there in the Budweiser bullpen section of the field. And likewise, nobody warming up for Bethune-Cookman with Santos still sub 50 pitches here in the 6th inning.
It's a credit, of course, to Sigmund to push his outing beyond 5 innings after what looked like it would be doomed to a short affair, giving his bullpen a break and some much-needed rest heading into what's going to be a long
Now
series.
the runner goes, and the throw is in time but offline, and it's a stolen base for Ortiz. The pitch was a strike, so the count runs full on Mims. And maybe there's some confusion about whether it should be ball 4 or strike 2. But it is 3-2. Says home plate umpire Robert Bauer, who both coaching staffs have now taken an issue with. Milton Barney chirping from the dugout.
Seems like nobody's happy with the strikes, balls, strikes, the count, the base running. Just a lot of animosity out here at the Jack tonight.
The full count to Mims. Outside ball 4. And the first walk of the game issued by Santos.
For the first time tonight, Mississippi Valley State put a little something together here. No one away.
First time they've had 2 runners on in the game. And there's 2 on and nobody out. We'll see how quickly somebody hops up in the VCU bullpen, or if Coach Hernandez is just content to let him work through this with a 7-run lead.
I'd imagine that would be the case. You know, you see him at 55 pitches now for Santos. 7 strikeouts. Don't really see any reason if you're Coach Hernandez to risk the rest of the night. Not necessarily getting out of hand, but burning arms that could be used later in the series. I think we'll see Santos for a few more innings unless things really go south here.
The wind whips up again. As a breaking ball is in there for a strike, they throw to second and try and get the stealing Ortiz, who dives back.
Ortiz still may be in the head of Santos a bit, as we saw the walk there. It's got his focus split between the runner and the batter. We'll see, even at second now, Santos clearly keeping an eye on him, checking on him occasionally.
Here's the 0-1 from the stretch. Bunted foul behind the plate. And I'm surprised that Marvin Booker did not square to bunt on pitch number 1. Booker, a sophomore from Atlanta, Georgia. Facing an 0-2 count now to the blue-gloved Santos, who winds and fires. Bunted right in front of the plate, foul. As I believe that it hit the bat twice, and it did, so Booker is out.
Got bailed out there, did the official. Coach Hernandez was ready to run in on him, frustrated with the foul call, but I think that one very clearly bounced right in front of the batter's box there on the right-hand side and kicked back into it. So it would have been the correct call to say it was a foul ball.
Well, it hit the bat twice.
Right, which is why I say the official was in a ways bailed out, not having to call it foul and risk Hernandez's wrath there. But either way, we move on.
We move on to Maury Weaver, now 1 gone, first and second. Weaver, check swing. The ball gets away from Braceras, and it actually stayed right there at home plate and needed Santos to rush in to get it, but the runners will advance, and Braceras maybe a bit banged up. They give a stolen base to Ortiz and Mims.
Braceras headed right off the field and into the dugout. That ball hit him square in the chest. Didn't get a glove on it or anything. Straight off of his chest guard. He's walked all the way through the dugout and out the other side.
He is
heading down to the bullpen area now. They're going to get the pad off of him as Dale Machad.
So I think we are going to see Irvin Escobar here, and now we've got a bit of time while Irvin gets ready. And this is the second time in as many games we've seen Braceras kind of chased from the game due to an injury sustained behind the plate. We saw it on Tuesday against Stetson.
And that is about the strangest injury exit that I've seen. Looks like the trainer may be attending to his right hand. He looks to be in a lot of pain. That could be trouble for Braceras. We obviously hope the best for him, but yeah, trainers are really attending to that right hand. I'm not sure exactly how it would have gotten him on the right hand like that.
Yeah, well, either way, you feel for George Braceras, who, as you said earlier in the broadcast, has come in and really taken the starting role from a preseason all-SWAC guy in Irvin Escobar, who's trotting out to the plate now.
Like you said, it was an outstanding catcher duo between Escobar, maybe the more defensively focused guy, who could certainly get on base when needed, and was one of the toughest batters to strike out in the country last year, but really excels throwing out runners attempting to steal, and solid guy calling pitches for his starters. Of course, with the excellence of the rotation last season, we saw him really command that from back there. And
so Escobar replaces Braceras at catcher and in the number 6 spot. If you're watching us on the only screen you've got tonight, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll try our best to keep you informed of what's going on with March Madness, as we've got San Diego State and Alabama right now, and then Houston, Miami. Miami up on Houston at the break, 42-36. And San Diego State and Alabama tied at 51 with 7 minutes to go. So we could see a lot more chaos tonight with 2 number 1 seeds on the ropes.
I wouldn't blame you if you did turn on March Madness instead of us here on the Cat Eye Network, but for those of you sticking around, we are thankful.
Now Escobar behind the plate. That pitch from Santos misses outside, and the count 2-0 on Maury Weaver, who grounded out to short and struck out in his first 2 plate appearances today. Second and third, 1 out. Mississippi Valley trying to get on the board here, down 7-0. Breaking ball, strike. And the count 2-1. This is the first time that Nolan Santos really has been made to sweat a little bit in this game. It's been easy pickings for the big right-hander so far. This time he powers one to the plate and induces a swinging strike and a ball in the dirt, count 2-2. Santos up to 58 pitches on the night. Weaver looking to increase on his 11 RBIs this season. And he chops that one to the left side, charging it and throwing to first, and the ball gets away from Perpeña. In to score is Ortiz. In to score is Mims. Going to second is Weaver with the error. And more issues for the Wildcats defensively, especially on the left side of the infield. We saw it bite him a little bit on Tuesday and in the series against Alabama State.
And that error will ultimately be credited to Brian Perez at third. Hasn't been easy for Boris Peña, or even when we've seen Robert Moya take over there. You know, you don't have, with the tandem, the platoon, if you will, over at first, it hasn't really been one set individual commanding it defensively. So when the left side of your infield is making it difficult, it's certainly not a recipe for success if you're any first baseman.
So Weaver standing on second after the error. Ortiz came in to score, likely would have scored anyway, but the error also allowed Mims to score from second. And now here's Victor Figueroa. Count is 1-1. And Santos deals. Hit high in the air, foul. Straight behind home plate. And it's 1-2. Man, would Nolan Santos love a strikeout here. The 2-2 pitch. Inside, not called. And the count is now 2-2. Correction.
Just like that, the Wildcats have given the Delta Devils a little bit of life here. We see it in the body language for sure.
Santos deals the 2-2. Outside and low, 3-2. Santos trying to work out of a tough spot here. He deals the 3-2. Swung on and missed. The ball pops high in the air. They're going to see that Figueroa got a tip to that. I think they are. But it looked like the ball just popped off of Escobar's shoulder, but we'll do the 3-2 again. Santos deals, bounces to the plate, and a second walk issued in the inning for Nolan Santos. And once again, there are 2 on with 1 out. A look around the SWAC. Today, Friday, March 24th, as Johnny Hernandez comes on out to talk to Nolan Santos. No threat of a pitching change because nobody's warming up, but I expect there might be somebody warming up in short order here for VCU. The only other game that has not gone final is Alcorn State at Grambling State, and then there's Southern at Texas Southern. Although we should have a Southern Texas Southern score at some point because that game started at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, so they should be close to being done over there in Houston. Final scores around the SWAC. In the East, Alabama State beat Jackson State 9-2. Prairie View A&M beats Arkansas Pine Bluff 13-1, and Florida A&M hung 16 on the Bulldogs of Alabama A&M in a 7-inning run rule victory. As I mentioned, Alcorn and Grambling and Southern and Texas Southern yet to report scores.
According to the Grambling State website, it looks like the Alcorn State competition may be a double header, so may explain some of the delay in getting a final from that game, which was scheduled to start at 1 p.m. Central.
And Texas Southern is currently leading Southern 8-5. That game is in the 9th inning. 1-2, 1 out. That's right, first and second, 1 out. And here is Davion Hull. And Santos bounces another one to the plate, and it's 1-0. And all the confident bravado and command that Santos had through the first 5 innings has withered away here in the 6th. As Santos gets Hull to foul one off to the first base side.
You know, we saw it in Sigmund in this game. All it's going to take here is get a couple quick outs, a double play. I'd fully expect Santos to come out for the next inning and kind of return to what we've seen earlier in this game.
Hull, 2 homers, 11 RBIs on the year. A base hit would improve that number with a runner on second. Upstairs, no call, 2-1. Hull, a junior from Grenada, Mississippi, and a transfer from Mississippi Delta Community College. Breaking ball fouled off his foot, and the count 2-2. There's somebody now throwing in the Delta Devils bullpen. Obviously, if you watch our basketball broadcast on the Cat Eye Network, the name Mississippi Delta Community College will not be a strange one to you. They are a basketball powerhouse that put a bunch of players into the SWAC. Breaking ball, swing and a miss, strike 3. Down goes Hull, and boy, did Santos need that one.
Sometimes all it takes your strikeout back under your belt and lock back in. We'll see if the command and the overall approach here on the mound improves for Santos following that one.
7th strikeout of the evening for Santos. Breaking ball, strike called on the outside corner to Draylon Holmes. He's the big power threat for the Delta Devils. 5 homers and a team-leading 16 RBIs. Now with 2 on and 2 out, 2 runs already in the inning for MVSU. And they've scored all those runs and got all these base runners without a hit. Eudanio Ferreal Ortiz reached on an error. Then Davon Mims walked. And then they both scored on a throwing error. Throw back to first, and well out on the base paths is Victor Figueroa. 2 runs, no hits, 2 left. And as we head to the bottom of the 6th inning, it's 7-2. Wildcats over Delta Devils right here on the Cat Eye Network. New pitcher for the Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Brian Perez will be the first to face James Snipes. Snipes comes in with an 0-1 record and an 11.64 ERA. In 19 1/3 innings pitched, he has given up 31 runs on 38 hits, striking out 7 and walking 9. Snipes has started 1 game in 9 appearances. The count 1-1 to Perez, who walked in the first and was stranded on first and then flied out to right. This time he hits it in the air to center. Moving over Booker, he makes the catch, and there's 1 away. So Perez has hit the ball hard twice. He was robbed of a nice hit by Hull in right with a diving catch. And then he hit the ball hard to center field for Booker to grab. And now here's the 9-hole hitter Malik Stevens. He's 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. Obviously not what we're used to seeing from the power hitter. And Coach Hernandez really likes to do this as Stevens looks at strike 1. He likes to put really solid hitters in the 9 spot. Kind of set up the top of the order. Swing and a miss. That looked like a changeup that came in there real slow.
Of course, the Wildcats have been blessed with Colton Olison anchoring that 9 spot for all of last season and into this year, but it certainly helps to have a table setter down there in the 9-hole.
Stevens rips this one down the left field line and into left field. There's a base hit. Speaking of table setter, he is on the board for the first time today. And that'll bring up Tuero in the top of the order. Tuero 0 for 1 with 2 walks. Walked in the first and scored, walked in the second and was stranded on first.
You know, with these Wildcats, even the guys who have not managed to get on via the base hit, everybody's hit the ball fairly hard. A lot of long flyouts we saw from Brian Perez earlier in this one. Some good, solid contact.
Fastball right down the middle from Snipes. And the count on 1. Snipes wears his hat kind of crooked off to the right.
Thinking the same thing. There was a Yankee starter a few years ago who used to do a similar thing.
And I'm blanking on his name. It was not Sabathia.
Was it Pineda?
It was Pineda. You're correct.
Yes.
Michael Pineda.
My father would be very aggravated. He can't stand when the hat is off just a little bit, just enough to make you notice it.
Trying to steal is Stevens, and he is in there safely.
Stevens was a guaranteed steal every time he got on base just about last season, led the team in the category. Big way to manufacture offense for the Wildcats last season.
This steal only his second of the season on 3 attempts.
Absolute athlete is Malik Stevens.
The count 1-1 to Tuero, and the pitch. Change up outside. 2-1. And we were talking during the break when we saw Snipes coming on to pitch. And we were not sure of the depth of this Delta Devil pitching staff. As I mentioned earlier in the game, we got Hunter Stallings at a 4.03 ERA, Calvin McClendon with 8.06, Sigmund, who we saw with an 8.55, Isaiah Valenzuela with a 9.13, and everybody else, including Snipes, is at 10+ on the ERA. Tuero draws a walk. He's on for the 3rd time in the game via the free pass. And there's first and second with 1 out. Here's Garrett Chun. Chun singled in the first, struck out in the second and fly to right in the 4th.
And, you know, at this level of college ball, and across all of college ball, you don't necessarily have the defined roles in the bullpen to a lot of extent. It's all hands on deck, so things could certainly get ugly in this Delta Devils pen if the Wildcats can put some things together with the bat here.
And we don't know what arms are available for the Delta Devils in this series. Snipes deals fouled away 1-1. They played 2 midweek games, did Mississippi Valley State. Wednesday, they lost to Nichols State in Thibodaux, Louisiana, 10-5. And then on Tuesday, when most teams normally play their midweek games, pitch outside 1-2. They played Alcorn State. The final score was 17-13. And no, the football teams were not on the field. It was the baseball teams between the Braves and the Delta Devils. Mississippi Valley State winning that one 17-13. Hit off the end of the bat in the air down the left field line. That will be foul. We had a really interesting occurrence happen on Tuesday. I'm not sure if you were watching at the time. We had a player, I'm not sure who it was, I don't remember what team it was, we had somebody rip one down the left field line. It bounced in fair territory, hit off of the clubhouse window, and come back into play, and it was ruled a ground rule double.
I guess technically that would be the correct call. Some weird corners here at the Jack. They've got kind of an angular wall set up down there, so it's certainly not surprising to see that. They always say you see something new every time you come to the ballpark when it's baseball season. That really is the truth.
I believe it was Jeremy Garcia.
It was Garcia
who hit that one, and he was robbed of an RBI. This one hit hard down the left field line. Will it stay fair? Yes, it does. Rounding third and coming home. Here comes Stevens. Tuero holds it third. It's an RBI double for Garrett Chun, and the Wildcats push the lead to 8-3 or to 2.
Now this is interesting, Mike, because mid-conversation about that ball did the exact same thing we just said. It kicked off the line right about where the home bullpen is, kicked off that wall on the dugout and back into play, but they did not rule it a ground rule double.
Now the umpires on Tuesday took an RBI away from Jeremy Garcia because Robert Moya raced home from first, but they put him back on third.
Now that is fascinating. I don't know if the officials didn't see it, you'd have to imagine, I don't know if this was the same crew.
It is not the same crew.
Okay, so at the very least they have that going for them. But and in this case, it didn't affect the play because you see that Tuero's still at third, so he wasn't robbed of the chance to score. But nobody from Mississippi Valley waved it off as if it should be a ground rule double. They, the left fielder kept it going.
Here's Highland Hall, drills it down the right field line and deep. It is one hop and over the wall. How about it? It's a ground rule double.
It's a weird night of baseball, Mike.
The baseball gods have given us a strange one this evening. Tuero scores from third. Chun scores from second. We'll see if they send him back off the ground rule double. It doesn't look like they will. It's a 2 RBI double for Highland Hall as he replaces Garrett Chun at second base, and the Wildcats have hit double digits. It's 10-2.
I'll tell you one thing for sure. That one was a ground rule double no matter which way you look at it.
Off the bat for Hall, I thought that was going to be gone. But once again, the wind whipping hard to left field kept that one in the ballpark.
For some reason, everybody insists on hitting it to right.
Pena doesn't take on a fastball inside 1-0. If there's anybody that's going to love a pitching change, it's going to be Boris Pena. Takes another pitch inside 2-0. Something I always say about Pena every time I see him hit is he doesn't do anything by half measures. Every time he wants to rip the head off the ball. And it does get him in some trouble sometimes. He can strike out a little bit, maybe too much for the coaching staff's liking. But when he gets a hold of one, as we saw in the first, he put it 400-plus feet to dead center.
It takes a certain kind of swing to hit one out to dead center field here at the Jack, and that's about the one you're looking for.
Pena, breaking ball strike, and he was on his way to first in a 3-0 count.
We've had a fair amount of Wildcat batters particularly, but we've seen it from both sides throughout the season. Kind of show up the umpire a little bit with the trots down to first, throwing up the bat, assuming the ball is called.
Pena fouls it off, and it hits Brown in the leg, and the count runs full after being 3-0.
So I don't know if taking off for first or anything early is giving the Wildcats any sort of disadvantage.
At that point, I don't blame Pena because that ball looked to be in the same spot that the first 3 balls were, and he didn't get rung up until he was past the dirt area towards first base. That one well off the plate in the opposite batter's box, and Pena does get to first via the walk. So after the fly to center by Brian Perez, 5 consecutive Wildcats have reached base, and 3 of them have scored. And now here is Robert Moya, who, to finish my story about Tuesday, did eventually score in that inning because the next pitch was a wild pitch that got to the backstop, and he came home from third.
Ball don't lie.
As they say. That's usually a basketball term, but I guess it applies here too. But again, it robbed Garcia of an RBI, which, there's a strike on the outside corner, 1-1. Baseball players, more than athletes in any other sport I think I've ever covered, care about their stats.
It's a very individual game.
This one hit sharply to right field. That one's going to get down in front of Hall. Holding up at third is Hall, and caught in no man's land between second and third is Pena. Now he gets back to second. Hall comes home and the ball gets away. Madness on the base paths as Hall scores. Moya moves to second and Pena goes to third.
Well, it went 9-2-4-5 and nobody's out. Thought for sure Boris Pena would be dead to rights, but then of course, well, it all started with Hall kind of maybe ill-advised making that turn to home plate. Looked to be out easily. Made the turn back. Boris Pena looked like a deer in the headlights out there between short and third.
I think the biggest guy in all of this that got away with one is Boris Pena, because he obviously rounded second and missed the sign from the third base coach to hold up, and he just ran. He almost got to third base before he had to turn and go back. The catcher, Brown, threw it to second to try and get him out, and then Hall came home. This one lined to center field by Irvin Escobar. It's caught. Tagging up and coming home is Pena. He will score. And the Wildcats now have an 11-2 lead. They're playing the, I don't remember what this song is called, but it perfectly encapsulates
If you're hearing this song,
what is happening this inning.
it's probably not the best moment for you.
Oh, I think it's the Curb Your Enthusiasm song.
I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
I don't know about that one.
It about sums up what's happening in this
Yeah,
inning,
that
no matter what it is.
this inning, like the 5th inning on Tuesday, has just kind of gone off the wall, but in a way that the Wildcats have benefited from.
And, of course, in SWAC conference play, there is a 10-run mercy rule.
But we have to get to the 7th.
But we have to finish the 7th inning.
But this being the 6th, if the Wildcats, it is actually 12-2. I misspoke. So if the Wildcats get one more run, as the ball skips away from Brown, Moya doesn't advance. This is Irvin Escobar. Actually, correction. Escobar flied out to center, which allowed Pena to tag and score from third. See, I'm so far behind on my, I keep scoring manually just because it's what I've always done. And with an inning like this, it's kind of hard to keep up.
This whole game's kind of been that way, especially the last few innings.
This is Jeremy Garcia at the plate. Doubled and scored in the first, flew out to right in the third, and then grounded to first in the 5th. And this one is floating over the glove of Ortiz at second base. Rounding third and scoring is Moya. And it's 13-2 Wildcats.
That was a nice effort by Ortiz. He nearly got on it. I believe it hit off the tip of his glove. But a nice piece of hitting by Garcia, who's riding a pretty decent hot streak now. He's putting together 3 good games in a row out of the bottom of the order.
He is indeed. And we have batted around in the 5th. Or correction, in the 6th. Brian Perez, who led off the inning with a fly ball to center, now bats again with 2 outs and Garcia aboard, and he drills one to third. Holmes fields and fires. And Brian Perez makes the first out of the inning and the last out of the inning. 6 runs, 5 hits, 1 left. And we go to the top of the 7th. The Wildcats needing just 3 outs to end this contest in a run rule right here on the Cat Eye Network. Some defensive changes for the Wildcats as we hit the bottom of the 7th. Hodges playing right field for Hall. And Sufrain is now playing first base in replace of Pena. Nolan Santos, 3 outs away from picking up the complete game. It'll be a 7-inning complete game with the 1 rule, with the Wildcats up by 11, 13-2. Draylon Holmes leading off for the Delta Devils. Strike called outside corner, 0-2. And after a rough 6th inning, you would think Nolan Santos just wants to get out there and get this done in as few pitches as possible.
With the pace he's throwing the ball right now, I think he certainly agrees with that.
I mean, we had a 4-pitch inning back in the 2nd, so I wouldn't put anything past Nolan Santos at this point.
We've seen a little bit of everything here at the Jack tonight.
Liner to 3rd. Perez fires across the diamond. Sufrain picks it up, and there's 1 away. A nice confidence-building play from Perez, who has been charged with 2 errors tonight. And we have a pinch hitter for Chris Soder. This is Keith Harden. He replaces the DH, Chris Soder. Harden, check swing, but he went on the fastball and 1. He's batting 154, 13 plate appearances, 1 run on 2 hits, no homers, 1 RBI. And he takes a strike outside corner quickly, 0-2.
Meanwhile, in March Madness, number 1 seed Alabama, done, going home after a 71-64 loss to San Diego
Swing
State.
and a miss. Strike 3 as Soder goes down. 9th strikeout of the game for Nolan Santos. So if he strikes out Ryan Brown to end the contest, that would be 10 strikeouts, and he would continue to average double-digit strikeouts per outing. This one just outside. And San Diego State has beaten Alabama. It is over as March continues to be mad.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. How about the Princeton Tigers and the Florida Atlantic Owls?
Always
Crazy
love to
stuff.
see some success from these Florida schools, especially a mid-major in Florida Atlantic.
The last Florida school. Oh no, Miami is still in it. They were playing Houston today. I'm not sure.
Playing them tough,
They
too.
were in the lead at halftime the last time I looked.
72-58. The Hurricanes up big.
Wow. Coach Laranyaga's squad potentially off to the Elite 8. We'd see 2 number 1 seeds go down back-to-back. It looks like we might. This one hit in the air to left. This could do it. Sean giving chase, and it is over the wall. Well, Mississippi Valley State has kept this one interesting. It's a home run over the left center field wall for Ryan Brown. His first home run of the year and 2nd RBI. So one of the most unlikely guys on the Delta Devils roster to go deep, picks one up, puts it into the jet stream, and the wind carries it out beyond the left field fence.
Well, we've been saying it all night. Get it up in the air to left, and just about anything can happen, and that's exactly what Brown did.
We've got another DH here. This is Christopher King. King hitting in the 9 spot and will presumably, if we continue, play shortstop for Yodani Ofriel Ortiz. Now, you are the man with the rules. If we get an out without another run scoring, is the game over because it is a 10-run deficit, or does it need to be more than 10?
It is a 10-run deficit. The game will end, as far as I know.
So, Mississippi Valley State once again down to their last out. Santos still flirting with a 7-inning complete game here, despite giving up the home run to Brown. And quickly, King is down to his last strike as 2 fireball fastballs go down the middle. Here's a pitch. Swung on, line to center field. There's a base hit. King put it right back where it came from. And the Delta Devils are staying alive here in the 7th.
Emptying the clip off the bench with the pinch hitters, and they've both come through. Not necessarily in danger of dropping the game, but perhaps keeping us here at the park for a few more innings.
I thought we might get out of here in under 2 hours, but unfortunately that is not going to be the case.
Hey, now, we've got a minute and a half.
I guess if one more out goes, we could get this one done in under 2 hours. And Johnson now pinch running at first. Mims waves at one, and there's a strike. So this is the third batter in a row for the Delta Devils with their backs against the wall. Brown hit a fly ball home run to left, just inside of the new scoreboard. Santos bounces it to the plate, and it's 1-1. And then off the bench, Christopher King lined a single to center. Called strike from Robert Bauer. And remember, Mississippi Valley State was in a situation where they were down big to New Orleans, and they got rung up on an outside pitch to end the game. And a clip that went pretty viral. I think even John Boy Media covered that.
Of course, that home plate official was at one point scheduled to work one of our games, but a season-long suspension kept him out.
Down to second. Safe! Wow, Christopher King with the stolen base, and the game stays alive. Tuero thought he had him.
Unless he missed the tag, I'm not entirely sure how that's called safe.
Unfortunately, we do not have the benefit of replay here at Jackie Robinson Ballpark. Not really something we can do. So now not the tying or winning one, but the game continuing run. It's a phrase I've never said before in my entire life, is on second base. Here's the 2-2. Strike three, called. Mims strikes out looking, and Nolan Santos' 10th strikeout of the game is the last out of the game. The Wildcats run rule the Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils by a final score of 13-3 in 7 innings. Nolan Santos shaky a little bit towards the end, but for most of the night, Bryce, magnificent.
And that's what we've come to expect from Santos, particularly with all the swings and misses we see from him. I think the Wildcats, it's a weird game tonight, but at the end of the night, you set out what you set to accomplish. The pitching is strong, a few hiccups here or there, but that's to be expected. The bats did what they've been doing. They continue to hit the ball well, get on base, push runs across. You keep the momentum going. You certainly don't want to overlook this Delta Devils team, even after a run rule game. But you take home the W, you're happy with your individual performances, and you get ready for Saturday.
Tomorrow it'll be Daniel Gaviria pitching for the Wildcats. You can see that game on the Cat Eye Network. You will not hear us. And then potentially you will hear me Sunday. We'll see what the schedule looks like as the afternoon to end the 3-game series. That's a 6 p.m. first pitch tomorrow and a 1 p.m. first pitch on Sunday. Your final line score for Mississippi Valley State: 3 runs on 4 hits, 2 errors. And for Bethune-Cookman, 13 runs on 11 hits. They also made 2 errors. The winning pitcher is Nolan Santos. He improves his record to 3-1 and probably brings down his ERA as well. And the losing pitcher is Zachary Sigmund. He drops to 1-3. Once again, your final score from the Jack: the Wildcats 13, the Delta Devils of Mississippi Valley State 3. Join us tomorrow here on the Cat Eye Network for Game 2 of this 3-game SWAC set. For Bryce Wynowski, my name is Michael Torrillo. Thank you so much for spending your Friday evening with us, and have a very pleasant rest of your evening.